BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Thanks for downloading Inheritance Tracks from Saturday Live on BBC Radio 4. Each week we ask which track you've inherited and which track you want to pass on to the next generation. Today it's the turn of Rick Wakeman. Rick Wakeman is best known for his time as the flamboyant keyboard player in the band Yes. The abiding image of him is on stage, dressed in a cape and surrounded by multiple keyboards, and was often referred to as the Caped Crusader. He became a full-time session musician on tracks by, among others, David Bowie, T-Rex and Elton John, and became a member of Strawbs in 1970 before joining Yes a year later. He also began a successful solo career. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Yes in April 2017, and he still wears pink suits and is still very tall. We asked him for his inheritance tracks.
The track I inherited from my parents, mainly from my father, is Woodman, Woodman, Spare That Tree by Phil Harris.
There is a tree grows near our house. It's been there quite some time. Now the tree is a slippery elm tree in awful hard to climb.
It's very rare you hear Woodman, Woodman, Spare That Tree played on the radio. I've heard it a couple of times, and immediately I go back to my mum and dad's small front room in Wood End Gardens, where the old 78 record player was, and I can see my dad there, and I can see him putting the 78 on and laughing. He laughed every time he played it.
I said to him, look here, my friend, hold on, desist, whoa, stop.
My dad played the piano, a fine piano player in every respect. During the war years, he was often airlifted out from wherever he was with the army to play for Billy Cotton and for Harry Seacombe. He told me so much about music and told me that all music had a relevance. He said, if there's any music you really don't particularly like, try playing it and try meeting people who play it and then see if you can understand why they like it. His advice throughout those years was just fantastic. My father died in 1980, but I still recall things that he said to me, almost every single day. There is no doubt in my mind that he's my guardian angel.
Now, no one can climb that tree but me because really, friend, it's too slippery.
I miss my father tremendously. This might sound strange. I was born in 49. I was brought up in the 50s. That wasn't the era where you hugged your parents and things like that. You shook their hands. So I never really got the chance to do that much before he died. I'm closer to my father now than I was when he was alive. Whether it's real or psychological, I don't know. But I have his photograph as I come down the stairs at my house. Talk to him every morning and every night. Morning, Dad.
Because I'm going to drop old 5 down to thee, the one...
I do have a strong faith, and I do believe in an afterlife, and I do hope that one day I will have the chance to give him a hug and say, Dad, you have got no idea. You may not have thought it at the time, but all of the things you said were so important to me in my life. As I say, I'd like to hug him, but in the nicest sense, I'm sure he'll understand, hopefully not too soon. The track I want to pass on would be Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. There's a lot of it, but it was a great influence on me, and as indeed all Prokofiev's music and Eastern European composers were. I first heard Peter and the Wolf when I was about 8-9 years old, and my father took me to see a free concert at Ealing Town Hall, and I was just captivated. Here was somebody telling a story to music, and I thought that was the most wonderful thing in the world, the most beautiful themes throughout, and that stayed with me. That's what I want to do. I want to write stories to music. I find life fascinating. I find stories fascinating because our lives are chapters of stories. And I think sometimes we forget that. I've said to all of my kids, make sure you remember or write down all the stories about your life because you can pass them on, because one day your kids are going to ask about it, as indeed my kids are now. My grandchildren, I've got 11 grandchildren, and they've started asking me questions with the dreaded line in, funny enough, which is, Grandad, tell us about the olden times. Peter and the Wolf was a story that was passed on to me through my father, and if he hadn't have done that, then I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have discovered Prokofiev, maybe I wouldn't have discovered storytelling. So it's so desperately important to me that I was lucky enough to hear that at a very young age. I think that it's probably the most important piece of music that ever entered my life. Long after I've departed this mortal coil, I think probably if anybody read stuff about me, or if they did make the film, would think that I was probably not of this planet. I've often thought that, heaven forbid, should I depart this mortal coil within an hour, that I could honestly say that I couldn't have squeezed any more in if I'd tried. I have actually got in my will written what I would like on either my plaque or my tombstone, whatever it is that they do, and it just simply reads, "It's not fair, I haven't finished yet."
There are lots more Inheritance tracks that you can download. Just search on BBC Sounds.